The Great Hall of Prime had never been so quiet. Representatives from 12 spacefaring civilizations sat in their designated sections, each species separated from the others by invisible walls of ancient distrust. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a dome of living crystal that changed colors based on the emotions of those within it. Right now, it glowed a deep and troubled purple. Captain Daniel Cole stood at the entrance with his small crew, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon him. He was a tall man with graying hair and steady hands, chosen to lead Earth's first official diplomatic mission to the Galactic Assembly. Beside him stood Lieutenant Maria Santos, his communications officer and the finest humanity had ever produced. She was young, barely 30, but her mind held the grammar and vocabulary of 6 alien languages. They had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. 3 months of faster-than-light jumps through systems that humanity had only dreamed about a decade ago. And now they stood here, in the heart of galactic civilization, and something was very wrong. Ambassador of the Collective rose from his seat. He was a creature, standing nearly 7 feet tall on 4 legs, with compound eyes that reflected the chamber's purple light. His species was among the oldest in the galaxy, their civilization stretching back nearly 100,000 years. When he spoke, his voice was translated through devices that every being in the chamber wore. "The assembly will come to order," announced. "We have gathered here today because of a matter of grave importance. High Archivist, please present your findings." Another stepped forward. This one was older, his exoskeleton showing the marks of extreme age. He carried a device that projected images into the air above the assembly floor. "For 50,000 years, my order has guarded the prophecy scrolls," began. "These scrolls were left to us by the architects, a species that vanished from this galaxy long before any of our civilizations rose to power. We have studied these scrolls but only now have we completed their full translation." The images shifted to show ancient writing, symbols that seemed to writhe and change as Cole watched them. "The prophecy speaks of beings who will emerge from the dark arm of the galaxy, beings from a death world where gravity crushes, where the atmosphere burns, where the water itself is poison to most life. These beings will be unlike any the galaxy has known." Cole felt a chill run down his spine. Earth was located in what aliens called the dark arm of the galaxy, and everything was describing sounded very familiar. "The prophecy says these beings will be pursuit predators, designed by their world to chase their prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They will feel emotions with an intensity that would drive other species to madness. They will bond with other creatures, even those that could kill them. They will poison themselves for pleasure and call it seasoning their food." Maria leaned close to Cole and whispered, "He is describing us, Captain." "I know," Cole replied quietly. Continued, his voice growing heavier. "The prophecy calls these beings the Enders. It says they will bring about the transformation of all that exists. Many of my colleagues believe this means destruction, the end of galactic civilization as we know it." The chamber erupted into chaos. Alien voices shouted over each other, translated words overlapping into a jumble of fear and anger. The crystal dome shifted to a burning red. A reptilian creature stood and pointed directly at Cole. This was Prosecutor of the Empire, a species known for their military might and their suspicion of outsiders. His scales were a dark green, and his eyes held nothing but cold hatred. "There stand the Enders now," declared. "The humans. They match every description in the prophecy. Their world is exactly as described. Their biology is exactly as described. They are the terror that was foretold, and we have invited them into our very heart." Cole stepped forward, his boots echoing on the crystal floor. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. "Permission to address the assembly," he said, keeping his voice calm and steady. Ambassador hesitated, his compound eyes studying the human before him. Finally, he gestured with one of his many arms. The human may speak. Cole walked to the center of the chamber. He could feel fear radiating from the aliens around him. Fear of him, fear of his species. It was strange to be the monster in someone else's story. "My name is Daniel Cole," he began. "I am the captain of the Earth vessel Horizon. I came here today hoping to begin a new chapter in the history of our peoples. I came hoping to find friends among the stars." He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled aliens. Some looked away from his gaze. Others stared back with open hostility. "I have heard your prophecy," Cole continued. "I have heard you call my people the Enders, and I will not lie to you. Everything your High Archivist said about Earth is true. Our world is dangerous. Our gravity is heavy. Our oceans are filled with salt that would poison most of you. We have predators that could tear any of us apart in seconds." The fear in the chamber grew stronger. The dome shifted to an even darker shade of red. "But here is what your prophecy did not tell you," Cole said. "It did not tell you that humans traveled to this chamber not to conquer, but to learn. It did not tell you that we have spent our entire history reaching for things beyond our grasp, not to destroy them, but to understand them. It did not tell you that the same emotions that seem so dangerous to you are the very things that drive us to protect those weaker than ourselves." He looked directly at, "You call us the Enders, but what if you have misunderstood? What if we are not here to end anything but to begin something new?" Hissed, his scales rippling with anger. "Pretty words from a death world predator, but words change nothing. My government has already begun discussions about a preemptive strike against your home world. Better to end the threat now, before the prophecy can be fulfilled." Cole felt Maria grip his arm. She was scared, and she had every right to be. They were alone here, far from home, surrounded by species that saw them as monsters. But Daniel Cole had not come this far to give up. He had not crossed the stars to let fear win. "Then I ask for time," he said. "Time to prove that your prophecy has been misread. Time to show you who humans truly are. Give us that chance. If we fail to convince you, then you may do as you wish. But if you strike now, based only on fear and ancient words, you will never know what could have been." The chamber fell silent. The crystal dome shifted slowly from red to orange to yellow, reflecting the uncertainty that now filled every heart. Ambassador studied the human for a long moment. Then he turned to face the assembly. "We will take the human's request under consideration," he announced. "This session is suspended until tomorrow. May wisdom guide our decision." As the aliens began to file out of the chamber, Cole remained standing in the center of the floor. Maria came to stand beside him. "Do you think they will give us a chance?" she asked. Cole watched the retreating forms of a dozen different species, each one carrying fear of humanity in their hearts. "I do not know," he admitted, "but we have to try, because if we cannot prove them wrong, then everything we are becomes a reason for war." And somewhere in the ancient prophecy, words written 50,000 years ago waited to reveal their true meaning. The assembly reconvened the following morning, though morning was a relative term on a world with 3 suns. Captain Daniel Cole had not slept. He had spent the night in his quarters aboard the Horizon, reviewing everything humanity knew about the species that now sat in judgment of his people. The crystal dome above the chamber glowed a cautious orange as the delegates took their seats. Cole noticed that several species had positioned themselves farther from the human delegation than before. Fear was spreading like a disease. Ambassador called the session to order. "After much deliberation, the Assembly has decided to allow the human delegation additional time to address the concerns raised by the prophecy. However, prosecutor has requested the opportunity to present evidence first. The Assembly grants this request." Cole exchanged a glance with Maria. This was not a good sign. Slithered to the center of the chamber, his scales catching the light. He carried a data device that projected images into the air, just as High Archivist had done the day before. "Honored delegates," began, The humans ask for time to prove they are not the threat described in the prophecy, but we already have evidence of what they are, evidence gathered through direct observation. I will now present this evidence for your consideration. The first image appeared above the chamber floor. It showed a frontier world, rocky and barren, with a small human settlement visible in a valley. 17 years ago, a scout ship arrived at this world to conduct a routine survey. They did not know that humans had already established a colony there. Watch what happened when they attempted to make contact. The image shifted to show footage recorded from the perspective. The scout ship descended toward the settlement, broadcasting peaceful greetings on all frequencies. But the humans on the ground did not understand these greetings. They saw only an unknown vessel approaching their home. Cole watched as the colonists grabbed whatever they could find: farming tools, mining equipment, improvised weapons made from scrap metal. They formed a defensive line in front of their families. The scouts sent out a small landing party. 3 beings emerged from the ship, their arms raised in what they hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The humans attacked. Cole saw men and women charging at creatures twice their size. He saw a human take a blow from a limb that should have shattered bones, stagger for a moment, and then keep fighting. He saw another human lift a piece of machinery that weighed more than she did and swing it like a weapon. The scouts retreated to their ship and fled the planet. The footage ended with a final image of the human colonists standing victorious, blood running down their faces, still ready to fight. The humans did not stop to communicate, said. They did not attempt to understand. They saw something unknown and they attacked. And when they were injured, when their bodies were damaged in ways that would incapacitate any other species, they continued to fight. This is the behavior of the Enders. Lieutenant Maria Santos stepped forward, permission to provide context. Hist, the evidence speaks for itself. Let the humans speak, Ambassador said. Maria took a breath. Those colonists had no way to know they were peaceful. Frontier worlds are dangerous. They had already survived attacks from hostile wildlife and natural disasters. When they saw an unknown ship approaching, they did what humans always do. They protected their families. By attacking without provocation, countered. By defending their home, Maria replied. Waved a clawed hand dismissively and moved to the second piece of evidence. This footage came from a research team that had secretly observed a human colony world for several months. The images showed humans engaged in activities that made no sense to alien minds. A group of young humans climbed a sheer cliff face with nothing but ropes and their own hands, laughing as they pulled themselves higher. Other humans swam in an ocean that the had determined was slightly acidic, staying in the water for hours without apparent harm. Then came the most disturbing footage of all. Humans gathered around a table, eating food that had been deliberately mixed with capsaicin, a chemical compound that caused pain and burning sensations. They were sweating, their eyes were watering, and they were smiling. They poison themselves for entertainment, declared. They seek out pain and danger as if these things bring them joy. What kind of creature finds pleasure in suffering? Cole understood now why aliens feared humanity. Seen through their eyes, even the most ordinary human behaviors looked insane. We call it pushing our limits, he said, stepping forward without asking permission. We climb mountains because they challenge us. We swim in rough waters because it makes us stronger. We eat spicy food because the sensation reminds us we are alive. These are not signs of madness. They are signs of a species that refuses to accept limitations. Ignored him and moved to the third piece of evidence. This came from the Harmonites, a species of crystalline beings who communicated through vibrations and song. They had intercepted human entertainment broadcasts and attempted to analyze them. The images showed scenes from human movies and television programs. Battles, wars, conflicts of every kind, heroes fighting villains. nations fighting nations, person against person in endless struggle. Their art celebrates violence, said. They create stories about destruction and death. They train their young to see conflict as entertainment. No other species in the galaxy produces content like this. The Harmonites were so disturbed by what they found that 3 of their researchers required medical treatment. Maria tried to speak again, but cut her off. Save your explanations, human. I have one final piece of evidence that cannot be explained away. The prosecutor turned to face the entire assembly. Every species in this chamber has known conflict at some point in their history. The silicate swarm 10,000 years ago. My own people battled the crystalline plague. The Harmonites defended themselves against asteroid impacts. But in every case, these were external threats. Every species in this galaxy has fought against outside dangers. He pointed at Cole. Humans are the only species that wages war against itself. Throughout their history, they have killed their own kind in numbers beyond counting. They have created weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization and pointed those weapons at each other. They have committed atrocities against members of their own species that defy understanding. The chamber fell completely silent. The crystal dome shifted to a deep, troubled blue. This is the proof, continued. This is what makes humans the Enders. They do not need an external enemy to bring destruction. They carry it within themselves. They are chaos given form, and if we allow them into our galaxy, they will eventually turn that chaos against all of us. Cole looked around the chamber. He saw fear in alien eyes, fear and something worse, certainty. They believed humanity was exactly what the prophecy described. Ambassador spoke slowly. The human delegation will have the opportunity to respond tomorrow, but I must be honest, Captain Cole. The evidence presented today is troubling. Your species appears to be everything the prophecy warned us about. Cole wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that human conflict had decreased over time, that they had learned from their mistakes, that the same species capable of terrible violence was also capable of incredible kindness. But he could see it would do no good. Not yet. We will be ready tomorrow, he said quietly. As the assembly dispersed, Maria gripped his arm. Captain, there has to be something wrong with that prophecy, something they are missing. Permission to examine the original scrolls. Cole nodded slowly. Do it. Because right now, those scrolls are the only thing standing between humanity and a war we cannot win. Maria hurried away toward the archives, her mind already working on the problem. Somewhere in those ancient words was the key to saving her species. She just had to find it in time. The archives of Prime stretched deep beneath the surface of the planet, carved from living rock over thousands of years. Lieutenant Maria Santos walked through corridors lined with storage units containing the collected knowledge of 100 civilizations. The air was cool and dry, perfect for preserving ancient documents. High Archivist walked beside her, his aged exoskeleton clicking softly against the stone floor. He had agreed to grant her access to the original prophecy scrolls, though she could tell he was uncertain about this decision. Your people have put the assembly in a difficult position, said. Many delegates believe the safest course of action is to eliminate the threat before it grows. Maria kept her voice steady. My people are not a threat. We came here to find allies, not enemies. What you intend and what you are may be different things, replied. The prophecy does not speak of intentions, it speaks of nature. They reached a chamber at the heart of the archives. In the center of the room, protected by fields of energy, sat the prophecy scrolls. They were made of a material Maria did not recognize, something between metal and fabric, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as she watched them. These scrolls were already ancient when my species first discovered them, explained. The architects left them here along with instructions for their eventual translation, but the language they used was complex beyond anything we had encountered. It took us 50,000 years to decode it fully. Maria studied the symbols carefully. She had spent her entire adult life learning alien languages, searching for patterns in the unfamiliar, and something about these symbols felt wrong. "May I record them?" she asked. Hesitated, then nodded. "You may observe and record, but you cannot touch them." Maria activated her recording device and began documenting every symbol on the scrolls. As she worked, she noticed something strange. Certain symbols appeared multiple times, but in different contexts they seemed to carry different weights. "High Archivist, how certain are you about the translation of the word enders?" Tilted his head, his compound eyes reflecting her image. "It is the most accurate translation we could produce. The original term is complex. It carries meanings of conclusion, transformation, and finality." "Transformation," Maria repeated. "That is not the same as destruction. In the context of the prophecy, we interpreted it as the end of all things." Maria continued her work, her mind racing. She needed more information. She needed someone who could help her see what she was missing. Back on the horizon, Dr. Lisa was waiting for her. Lisa was one of the few humans who had dedicated her life to studying extinct alien civilizations. She was small and quiet, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I have been analyzing the data you sent," Lisa said as Maria entered the research laboratory. "The language structure is fascinating. It shares root patterns with several other ancient languages in the Galactic database." Maria uploaded her new recordings. "Can you identify the source language?" Lisa worked in silence for several minutes, her fingers dancing across the console. Then she stopped, her face going pale. "This cannot be right," she whispered. "What is it?" "The base language of the prophecy scrolls matches fragments we have from the architects, the species that disappeared 40,000 years ago. But Maria, look at this." She pulled up a comparison on the screen. Side by side, the prophecy language and another set of symbols. This second set comes from ruins discovered on a dead world in the Outer Rim. Ruins that we believed were created by a completely separate species, but they are the same language, the same people. Maria leaned closer. "Are you saying the architects did not disappear?" "I am saying they left, voluntarily. These symbols here," Lisa pointed to a section of the comparison, "they translate roughly to departure, journey, and new beginning. The architects were not destroyed. They chose to leave the galaxy." "But why would they leave prophecy scrolls behind?" Lisa highlighted another section of text. "Because they were not prophecies. They were warnings, messages left for the species that would come after them." Ensign Carlos burst into the laboratory. He was young, barely 22, fresh from the academy. But he had been working non-stop since the crisis began, searching every database he could access. "Lieutenant Santos, I found something," he said breathlessly. "Records from the historical archive. They mention that the architects sent similar messages to multiple worlds before they departed. Different messages, tailored to each species." Maria felt her heart racing. What kind of messages? "Guidance, advice, warnings about challenges each species would face in the future. The message left for was about a plague that almost destroyed them 3,000 years later. They survived because they followed the instructions in the message." Lisa stood up suddenly. "That changes everything. If the architects were leaving guidance rather than prophecies, then the message about humans might not be a warning about destruction. It might be advice about something else entirely." Maria returned to the prophecy symbols on her screen. She looked at the word that had been translated as enders. In the original architect language, it was a compound word, built from multiple root concepts. "Transformation," she said slowly. "Finality, conclusion, but also beginning. Lisa, what if the translation is wrong?" Lisa joined her at the screen. They assumed this was about ending things because they were afraid of what they were reading. Fear shaped their interpretation. But if we remove that fear and look at the roots objectively, Maria began reworking the translation, using the new context they had discovered. The architects had not predicted destruction. They had predicted change. Profound, irreversible change that would affect everything in the galaxy. The beings from the death world will transform all that exists, Maria read aloud. They carry within them the seeds of renewal. Where others see endings, they see beginnings. Where others accept limits, they push beyond. Carlos looked between the two women. So humans are not the destroyers, we are. Catalysts, Lisa finished. The architects saw that humanity would change the galaxy, not destroy it but fundamentally alter how all species interact with each other. Maria grabbed her data pad. I have to show this to the assembly. If we can prove the translation was wrong, we can stop this before it goes any further. She ran through the corridors of the horizon, her mind full of hope. But as she reached the airlock that connected to the station, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. Commander Park's voice came over the communication system. All hands to battle stations. Multiple warships have just exited faster than light travel in the system. They are military vessels. Repeat, military vessels have entered the system. Maria froze. Through the viewport she could see them. 15 massive warships, their weapons already charging, moving into attack formation around Prime. She activated her communicator. Captain Cole, I have proof. The prophecy was mistranslated. We are not destroyers. Cole's voice came back tense and focused. I believe you, Lieutenant. But right now, we have a bigger problem. They have decided not to wait for the Assembly's decision. They are going to destroy us before we can present your evidence. Through the viewport, the lead vessel began its approach toward the horizon. Get that evidence to the Assembly, Cole ordered. Whatever happens to us, make sure the truth survives. Maria watched the enemy ships closing in and knew that the next few hours would determine the fate of her entire species. The truth was in her hands. Now she just had to live long enough to share it. The Horizon was not built for war. She was a diplomatic vessel designed for long-range travel and first-contact situations. Her weapons were defensive at best, capable of fending off pirates or small hostile craft. Against 15 warships, she had no chance. Captain Daniel Cole stood on the bridge, watching the enemy formation through the main viewport. Commander Park stood beside him, already running calculations on their tactical display. 15 ships, Park said quietly. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Our shields will last approximately 4 minutes under concentrated fire. Cole nodded slowly. Options. We could run. Our faster-than-light drive is fully charged. We could jump out of the system before they get within weapons range. And leave the Assembly to believe we fled in guilt. Leave humanity branded as the Enders forever. Park's jaw tightened. Or we stay and fight. Buy time for Lieutenant Santos to present her evidence. How much time can we buy? Against those odds, Park shrugged, minutes, maybe less. A communication signal interrupted them. The face of General appeared on screen, his scales darker than his brother the prosecutor, his eyes cold and empty. Human vessel, said, you are ordered to power down your engines and surrender. Your crew will be detained pending the elimination of your home world. Resist, and you will be destroyed immediately. Cole stepped forward. General, the Assembly has not authorized this action. You are acting against the will of the galactic community. The Assembly is weak, hissed. They would debate while the threat grows. My government has decided to act. The prophecy will not be fulfilled. Your species will end here. The transmission cut off. Park was already moving. All hands battle stations, charge weapons, angle shields for maximum forward deflection. Cole activated the ship-wide communication. This is the captain. We are about to engage a superior enemy force. Our goal is not victory. Our goal is survival long enough for the truth to reach the assembly. Every second we last gives humanity a chance. I know I am asking you to face death, but I also know that every person on this ship chose to be here. We came to the stars to represent the best of humanity. Now we will show the galaxy what humans are made of. The fleet began its approach. Weapons ports opened along their hulls like wounds. Energy gathered at the tips of their guns. Park had an idea. Captain, during the evidence presentation yesterday, the show detailed sensor readings of human settlements. They were proud of how thoroughly they had studied us. Your point. They showed us their sensor capabilities. I know their frequencies, their scanning patterns, their blind spots. Park pulled up a schematic. Our probe launchers. We can program probes to emit signatures that look like fighter craft on sensors. We do not have fighters, but they do not know that. Cole understood immediately. Make them think we have more firepower than we do. Force them to divide their attention. It will not fool them for long, but it might buy us the time we need. Do it. The Horizon launched a spread of modified probes. On sensors, it appeared as if the human vessel had suddenly deployed dozens of small attack craft, spreading out in a flanking pattern. The enemy fleet hesitated. Their formation shifted as individual ships moved to intercept the phantom threats. It is working, Park said. They are splitting their fire. The first real shots came moments later. Green energy beams lanced through space toward the horizon. Most went wide, aimed at probes that existed only as sensor ghosts, but some found their mark. The ship shuddered as shields absorbed the impacts. Shield strength down to 80%, an officer reported. Cole gripped the arm of his command chair. Return fire, target their sensor arrays. If we can blind even one ship, it evens the odds. The Horizon's weapons were small compared to the guns, but they were precise. Blue beams struck the lead warship's sensor cluster, sending sparks flying into space. Direct hit, lead ship's forward sensors are offline. They are adapting, Park warned. They have realized the fighters are not real. The fleet reformed, now ignoring the phantom craft and focusing all their attention on the horizon. The next volley was devastating. The ship screamed as multiple beams struck simultaneously. Lights flickered. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Crew members were thrown from their stations. Shields down to 30%. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Casualties reported throughout the ship. Cole tasted blood. He had bitten his tongue when the blast hit. Around him, his crew was picking themselves up, returning to their stations, refusing to give up. Keep firing, he ordered. Every second counts. In the assembly hall, Lieutenant Maria Santos was running. She had managed to reach the chamber just as the battle began, but the delegates were in chaos. Many were fleeing, believing they had come to attack everyone. Ambassador stood at the center of the chamber, trying to restore order. Maria pushed through the crowd toward him. Ambassador, she shouted, I have proof. The prophecy was mistranslated. Humans are not the enders. Turned to her. Lieutenant, this is not the time. They have betrayed the assembly. We are all in danger. No, listen to me. The architects did not predict destruction. They predicted transformation. Humans are not going to end galactic civilization. We are going to change it, help it grow. She thrust her data pad toward him. Look at the translation. The root words have multiple meanings. They chose to interpret them as endings because they were afraid. But the truth is different. Studied the data, his compound eyes moving rapidly across the screen. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he looked up. You are certain of this? Completely, the architects left guidance, not prophecy. They saw what humanity could bring to the galaxy. Not war, not destruction, but change, growth, the end of stagnation. Outside, the battle continued. Through the transparent walls of the chamber, delegates could see the horizon taking hit after hit, but still fighting. "They are dying for us," Maria said. "My crew is dying to buy time for the truth. Please, Ambassador, do something." Made a decision. He turned to face the assembly, raising all four of his arms for attention. "The prophecy tells us that the Enders will be protected by those who first feared them most," he announced. "My species has feared these humans more than anyone. We were the ones who found the scrolls. We were the ones who warned the galaxy. And now I understand what that verse truly means." He activated a control on his wrist device. "Defense Command, this is Ambassador. Authorization Code 779. Activate the orbital defense platforms around Prime. Target the fleet." Silence fell over the chamber. Then, in space, ancient weapons came to life. Defense platforms that had orbited Prime for 10,000 years, built to protect the assembly from any threat, powered up and turned their guns toward the warships. "Stand down, General," broadcast, "or face the combined firepower of the collective." The fleet stopped firing. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then General's voice came through every speaker in the system. "This is not over, Ambassador. The prophecy will be fulfilled. If not today, then another day. Humans are the end of everything. You will see." The fleet turned and jumped to faster than light speed, disappearing from the system as quickly as they had arrived. On the bridge of the damaged horizon, Captain Cole allowed himself to breathe. "Damage report," he said. "Multiple hull breaches," Park replied. 37 wounded, 5 dead, but we are still here, Captain. We survived." Cole looked out at Prime, at the defense platforms that had saved them, at the galaxy that had been moments away from war. "Get me a channel to Lieutenant Santos," he said. "I want to know what she found that made the save our lives." And somewhere in the depths of space, General plotted his next move, certain that the humans were still the threat the prophecy described. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's future had only just begun. 1 week had passed since the battle above Prime. The Horizon remained in dock, her hull by weapons fire, her crew working around the clock to make repairs. 5 crew members had been buried in space with full honors, their sacrifice marked by a moment of silence observed throughout the ship. Captain Daniel Cole stood in the assembly chamber once more, but this time the atmosphere was different. The crystal dome glowed a soft golden color, reflecting a mood of cautious hope rather than fear. High Archivist stood before the gathered delegates, presenting the complete and corrected translation of the prophecy. Lieutenant Maria Santos stood beside him, her work finally receiving the recognition it deserved. "The original translation was flawed," admitted, his aged voice carrying throughout the chamber. "We allowed our fear to shape our interpretation. We saw destruction because we expected destruction. But the architects never predicted an ending. They predicted a transformation." The symbols of the prophecy hung in the air above them, now accompanied by their true meanings. "The beings from the death world will change all that exists," read. "They will carry within them something the old races have lost. They will remember how to dream. They will remember how to hope. They will remember how to fight for tomorrow even when today seems impossible." Cole listened to these words and felt something shift in his chest. His whole life, he had been told that humanity was young, small, insignificant in the vastness of space. Now he was learning that ancient beings had seen something different, something valuable. "The prophecy continues," said. "It says the beings from the death world will teach the old races to dream again. For they come from a world that tried to kill them, and they answered by reaching for the stars." Ambassador stepped forward. His compound eyes reflected the golden light of the dome. "On behalf of the collective, I wish to formally apologize to Captain Cole and the human delegation. We were wrong. We allowed ancient fear to cloud our judgment. We nearly destroyed a species that had come to us in peace." He turned to face the assembly. "The prophecy also says that the Transformers will be protected by those who first feared them most. When I activated the defense platforms, I did not understand why. I only knew that it felt right. Now I understand. The architects predicted this moment. They knew that when the time came, we would have to choose between fear and hope, and they trusted that we would choose correctly. Counselor Brightsong of the Harmonites rose from their crystalline seat. Their body chimed softly as they moved, creating music with every motion. My species was disturbed by human entertainment broadcasts. We saw violence and conflict and believed humans celebrated destruction. But we have since learned the truth. Humans create stories about struggle because struggle is central to who they are. They do not glorify violence. They glorify the courage to face it. They glorify the choice to stand up when falling down would be easier. The Harmonite turned toward Cole. We wish to study human art, not because it frightens us, but because it inspires us. We have grown comfortable in our peace. We have forgotten what it means to strive. Your species has reminded us. Cole felt Maria's hand squeeze his arm. Around the chamber, delegate after delegate rose to speak. Some offered apologies. Others asked questions. A few expressed continued concern, worry that the might return, fear that the prophecy might still hold darker meanings. But the tone had changed. Humanity was no longer the monster in the story. They were something new, something the galaxy had not seen in a very long time. Dr. Lisa was called forward to explain her research on the architects. She spoke about their voluntary departure from the galaxy, their decision to leave guidance for younger species, their hope that these messages would help civilizations grow beyond their current limitations. The architects left the galaxy because they had learned everything they could hear, Lisa explained. They went searching for new challenges, new frontiers. But before they left, they looked at the species that would come after them and they made predictions. Not about destruction, but about potential. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. They saw thee and predicted they would become keepers of knowledge. They saw the Harmonites and predicted they would become masters of art. They saw thee and predicted they would become defenders of order. And they saw a world spinning in the dark arm of the galaxy, a death world where survival itself was an achievement, and they predicted that the beings who emerged from that world would teach the galaxy how to hope again. The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. The architects did not fear humanity, Lisa concluded. They celebrated what we would become, and they trusted that when the time came, the other species of the galaxy would recognize our value. Ambassador spoke once more. In light of these revelations, I propose a new alliance. The collective will share our archives with humanity. Our knowledge, gathered over 100,000 years, will be open to human scholars. In return, we ask only that humanity share with us the thing we have lost, the ability to push beyond our limits, the courage to face the unknown, the stubborn refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Other delegates voiced their agreement. The Harmonites offered cultural exchange. A delegation of avian beings called the offer to share their navigation technology. Even species that had been silent throughout the crisis stepped forward with proposals. Cole was overwhelmed. A week ago, these same beings had looked at humanity and seen only terror. Now they were reaching out, offering friendship, asking for partnership. He stepped forward to address the assembly one final time. When I came here, I hoped to find allies among the stars. I never imagined that finding them would require us to confront an ancient prophecy that painted my people as monsters. I never imagined we would have to fight for our right to exist. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. But perhaps that is exactly what the architects predicted. Perhaps they knew that for humanity to fulfill our potential, we would have to prove ourselves, not through conquest or dominance, but through courage and determination, not by destroying what existed, but by transforming it into something better. He took a deep breath. On behalf of Earth and all of humanity, I accept your offers of alliance. We will share our dreams with you. We will share our hope. And together, We will build something the galaxy has never seen before. The crystal dome burst into brilliant white light, reflecting the joy and relief that filled the chamber. Delegates from a dozen species rose to their feet, creating a sound that was part applause, part song, part celebration. 3 days later, the Horizon departed Prime, but she did not travel alone. For the first time in galactic history, ships from 6 different species flew in formation with a human vessel. Science vessels, Harmonite cultural ships, navigators, others who had volunteered to accompany humanity home. Captain Cole stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past as they accelerated toward Earth. "What are you thinking, Captain?" Maria asked. Cole smiled. "I am thinking about that prophecy. The architects said we would teach the galaxy to dream again. They said we would transform everything. A week ago, I would have said that was impossible. Now." He gestured at the alien ships traveling beside them. "Now I think maybe they were right. Maybe that is exactly what we are meant to do." The Horizon and her escort fleet jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward Earth, toward home, toward a future that ancient beings had predicted thousands of years ago. The prophecy was being fulfilled, not through destruction but through hope, not through endings but through new beginnings. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the galaxy was already beginning to change.